Hi, I'm Joseph Edward Alegado, Jed Alegado for short. Currently a PhD student at the Crawford School of Public Policy here at ANU. Apply for a PhD when you are already, what I'm sure of is like, I want to finish this PhD. So my PhD is about how a global alternative thinking or movement called degrowth or post-growth is actually applicable in global south countries, particularly in countries in Latin America, Africa, or Asia.
There are many people, right, who are still in dilemma whether to start PhD or like continue working and gain some experience. There are also people who immediately jump into PhD after masters, right? So what are your suggestions? Can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Joseph Edward Alegado, Jed Alegado for short. I'm Filipino. I'm currently a PhD student at the Crawford School of Public Policy here at ANU.
So the young Jed in high school, how was he?
In high school, I used to be part of the student publication. I was the news editor for 2 years, I think. And also, during my fourth year, my senior year, I was the student council president for the whole secondary school. Yeah, I'm friendly, although I'm also in a way introverted, ambivert type of person. So even I think, as I'm recalling now, even during high school, I tend to devote some quiet me time and also at the same time enjoy the company of friends.
Wow, so you started your leadership experience right from the high school, right?
Yes, yeah.
So what was your study area during your undergraduate degree? Did you do it in the Philippines?
Yes, I studied in the Philippines in one of the major private universities in Manila, in Metro Manila, the capital region in the Philippines. In fact, at that time, I want to become a journalist, a broadcast journalist, or in the newspapers, right? I took Bachelor of Arts in AB Communications, minor in philosophy, with the hopes of joining the media after college. At that time also, I used to be the editor-in-chief of the Filipino or Tagalog publication in the university. A bit of a type of a critical student-led publication, more of like a progressive one compared to the other newspapers in that university.
So in the Philippines, how long is the undergraduate degree? And after undergraduate degree, did you like work for some time or immediately start your master's degree? Tell us about that.
Okay, so in the Philippines, we usually have 4 to 5 years for university, depending on your degrees and discipline. It took me 4 years to finish it, and then after that, I pursued my dreams of joining the media. I joined one of the major TV networks in the Philippines. I used to be a researcher writer for a morning public affairs, news and magazine show. I did it for a year. I felt like at that time I was looking for more. Like a more type of probably engagement, community engagement type of work, right, beyond writing scripts or researching for pictures in the TV show, in the morning TV show. So yeah, I actually jumped from one industry to another, really try to find like where my niche is. And then after 5 years from graduation, I initially took my master's in public administration also in the same university where I graduated from college. At the same time also, I moved to development work. I was hired as a media and communications officer for Oxfam in the Philippines. So it was, I think, really a big transition for me. Still doing communications and campaigning work, but more of really involving myself in the community, grassroots, and really the development and humanitarian work through Oxfam.
Wow, that's so exciting. So after completing your master's degree, after how long did you decide that you wanted to do PhD?
Okay. As my sisters would say, I really love studying for some strange reasons probably. That was my first master's degree in the Philippines. So I took it for 2 years. So in 2014, I graduated from that first one. And then after that, I started applying for master's degree abroad. After a year, I got a scholarship in the Netherlands, particularly in The Hague, the capital city. Went to the International Institute of Social Studies, or ISS, a critical development studies institute known globally. So I took a Master of Arts in Development Studies, major in Agrarian, Food, and Environmental Issues. So my research paper there was about food sovereignty, alternative thinking and movement on how do we actually secure food for all, but at the same time looking at the entire chain, right? The production, the rights of smallholder farmers, etc. So the program was for 16 months. I tried applying for PhD at that time, but I felt that probably I was motivated for the wrong reason. I was only applying because I want to prolong my stay in Europe, right? But so I wasn't that successful. After that, in mid 2017, I decided to go home. I was offered a communications manager role at Break Free from Plastic movement, a global movement working to end plastic pollution for good. So instead of looking at waste at the disposal stage, you look at it from the production stage, right? You go to the root cause, right? So it's a global movement. I was hired communications manager working for Asia Pacific. So there I really developed my understanding on the issues of waste and how it's related to social and environmental justice, right? So for 5 years I worked there. During the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, that's when I realized that I wanted to do a PhD. Then this time I was really serious, right? The pandemic, in a way, because of the lockdowns, the shifts to work from home, no travels for work, enabled me to write a decent proposal to look for supervisors who will support my application. So, and at that time, I was already, my partner and I were already thinking of getting married, etc. So I thought of maybe I can do my PhD in Australia, somewhere near to the Philippines. So at least, we only have like 8 hours of travel from Manila to Canberra, and then of course the time difference is not that a problem, a challenge. So only 2 to 3 hours depending on daylight saving. So that's why I get to explore applying for PhDs here in Australia. So in Uni Melbourne, in ANU, and also in University of Canberra.
Okay, wow. I think a single master's degree is also a lot of stress, but I see you have done double masters. So I think that's a lot of work. Now let's go to your PhD application process, maybe, which could be helpful to the people applying from your country and also from the people around the globe, right? So how did you find out the lab you are right now working, and how was your experience during the application process? Because this is not easy process, right? We have to write tons of emails and contact so many professors, and this process obviously takes time. So how was your experience about this?
So at that time, a colleague recommended to me applying for PhDs in Australia, and then I think Crawford School of Public Policy is actually has a reputation for being the best, if not the number one public policy school in Asia Pacific. And then of course I look for possible supervisors there, and luckily I was able to see that there's a Resources, Environment and Development Department, or RE&D department in Crawford School. Yeah, so the process was, you have to, at least in Crawford, you have to send a cold email in the department convener, and then they will be the one to send or pass on your expression of interest, or EOI, to possible supervisors. So also I think I was fortunate that there were interested supervisors in Crawford when I pitched to them my topic. One is working on waste in Southeast Asia and toxicity. The other one is on political ecology in Laos and other Southeast Asian countries. So they really felt like my topic pitch was really interesting. Yeah, I also same process also with other universities where I also applied in University of Melbourne, University of Canberra. I even look at Monash University. There was once potential academic, but then at that time the expression of interest application has already closed, so I wasn't able to apply formally. I think the tip here is really you have to have your plan A, plan B, or even plan C, right? So that's why for me, I actually applied for three universities in Australia just to have a backup if I don't get a scholarship or something. And of course, an advantage if you are able to develop a good reputation, good relationship with your previous or former professors or supervisors at work or contacts or network, because they will help you. Others will really be helpful, and also they will even volunteer to be your referee, right? When these universities ask you for character references or letters to support your application, so they will be there will be people who would be very willing, especially because in the past they have also did their own PhDs or masters, and they also have to ask for reference letters from their bosses or supervisors or professors before. Yeah.
Okay, now let's dive into your PhD. What is your PhD about? Can you tell us a little bit about your PhD?
So my PhD is about how a global alternative thinking or movement called degrowth or post-growth is actually applicable in global south countries, particularly in countries in Latin America, Africa, or Asia. So, because of the current socio-ecological crisis that we're experiencing, right? Inequality, climate change, loss of biodiversity, plastic pollution. So, there are proponents of said alternatives to development movements or thinking, really pushing for systemic changes, looking at how do we actually get out of these crises, right? The thing is, these alternatives to development thinking have been proliferating in the global north, in Europe, in North America, etc. So, what does it look like in the global south? So that's my how I approach my questions. How does it look like in the Philippines, where I came from? So I'm looking at it from a waste or zero waste management perspective, because when we talk about endless economic growth, right, we fail to take into account the waste and endless economic growth trajectory generate, right? So with all these issues on waste, marine animals being polluted, etc., us actually humans being experiencing the health and toxicity of single-use plastics, for example, it's also we really have to think about how do we get out of this crisis. So so that's where I'm coming from. So I went to the field. I went to the Philippines. I'm using case studies to communities in the Philippines, managing their own waste, practicing community-led, grassroots-led zero waste projects and solutions. So are these forms of degrowth, post-growth, post-development? So that is my main puzzle in my research, my PhD research.
So your field is basically in the Philippines, and you are like comparing it with the other countries, or it's just from the perspective of the Philippines?
So my research is mainly about the Philippines, using two case studies of a city and an island province in the Philippines. Yeah.
Wow, exciting. Now let's do a little bit of rapid fire round, okay? So in your life, who is your main source of motivation?
Main source of motivation, of course, my partner, my wife. She's really, although we come from different fields, she's a cardiologist, a doctor for the heart in the Philippines. We really support each other, right? Sometimes we would actually joke to each other that we actually don't understand the nitty-gritty of each other's work, right? But of course, it's also a good experience to have a partner, especially during your PhD journey, because even if your partner is not in the same field, whether he or she they understand your topic or not, they're still there, really supporting you. And of course, my family, my extended family, right? They're a source of inspiration. Right? As they say, it takes a village to raise or to finish a PhD, right? So I think I'm grateful for all this, community of circles of community and support, right? In the Philippines, and also here in Canberra.
Yeah, that's true. Are you a morning person or night owl?
I think I'm more of a night owl, which I think I have to change, right? Especially with the daylight savings, and time difference with the Philippines. Yeah, it's really hard to force myself to sleep early and then wake up early the next day. Yeah.
The best place for food, Australia or the Philippines?
I think still Philippines. So I live in the Netherlands. Now I'm living in Australia. Both have, sorry for the term, but really bland, right? Taste in terms of food. But of course, Canberra is really multicultural, so you get to experience different cuisines also from different countries.
And what is one Filipino food that you recommend everyone?
Yeah, I think sinigang, a tamarind-based soup with vegetables and meat, right? So you can have pork, beef, chicken, or even seafoods. We're also good with shrimp, right? So yeah, think about tom yum, but probably not too spicy, right? And without the lemongrass. So we have sinigang. Yeah.
Okay. So what is your stress releasing activity?
Yeah, I love doing sunset walks because I love watching sunset, and of course walking around, especially here in Canberra where you have really lots of space to walk, to breathe, and a bit of fresh air, and also take photos, right, of random things, nature, right? Especially now it's autumn season, like my photo album in my camera with all this autumn leaves, right? Since 2023, my first autumn experience here in Canberra.
Okay, Jed, now let's talk about your PhD life experience here in ANU, okay? How different is the lab and the research environment here compared to the Netherlands or the Philippines? Can you share us about that experience?
I mean, of course, I think PhD is really on a different level, right? So really have to, it's self-managed, of course. You have your own independence, you have your, you manage your own time. You, in a way, you are also expected to work like a regular employee for an 8 to 5 job, right? So part of that is really managing your own, but at the same time, it's also good to feel that you are in a part of a department, of a laboratory, or a team, right? So it's also about nurturing the relationships with your colleagues in the department, right? Attending seminars, research notes, confirmation of candidacy seminars, or final seminar for those who are submitting, right? So joining morning teas, afternoon teas for the PhD students, and also networking. For example, there's our book launches, right, with authors whom you have been citing in your work. It's also a good experience talking to them, taking photos with them, right? So, and finally meeting them in person. And of course, it's also really dedicated, right, research work that you have to do. Remember that for PhDs, you're expected to, of course, write, revise, submit, and address comments of your and questions of your supervisor or your panel, right? So it's really on a different level compared to like a master's with research component experience in the Netherlands or in the Philippines, right?
there are many people, right, who are still in dilemma whether to start PhD or like continue working and gain some experience. There are also people who immediately jump into PhD after masters, right? So what are your suggestions to those people who would immediately jump to PhD after masters, or those who are like after some experience? Like in your case, you did some experience and also did the double masters and started PhD. So what are your tips? What do you think about these things?
I think well, I'm coming from a social sciences background, right? So for me, if you're into the social sciences, I feel that you have really some must if you have work experience first. I suddenly remember now that during my first year at work, I actually applied for a master's degree abroad in Singapore, I think, for like a master's in communication. And recalling it now, I felt like, okay, I felt like I only applied for that master's in communications opportunity because I only want to escape working and like really, facing real world, as they say. So apply for a PhD when you are already ready, you're seasoned enough to make a decent proposal, one which will really pique the interest of academics or supervisors. In my case, even after finishing PhD, hopefully, I'm actually not yet sure whether I'll go full-time academe or go back to development NGO work and maybe do teaching and research as part-time sidelines, right? I'm not yet sure yet, but what I'm sure of is like I want to finish this PhD, and I in a way also fell in a way in love with the topic and the topic that I have, right? So because others would say don't go into PhD if you're not going into academia. I think that's actually there's a more nuanced response to that claim, right? But and lastly, in my case, when I had this urge to apply for PhD, I really felt like if I haven't applied, will I have what if question in the end, right? So if you don't want to have like a what if question, what if I applied, what if then I think you should just do it, right? Don't it's hard to imagine yourself like in the end regretting, right, that you didn't apply for a PhD, right? So at least have a small percentage that in yourself that you really want to do it, then go for it. Yeah, the universe will align, and supervisor will support you, will accept your application, and then you'll get a scholarship.
So Zed, I have one curiosity. What scholarship are you getting here? Is it the Australia Award or the ANU PhD scholarship?
I'm a recipient of the Australian Government Research Training Program, or RTP, which is actually I think has some advantage or like benefits than the usual University Research Scholarship, or URS, but in a way same amount also with they're both in the same amount, also interchangeable at some point, because the money or the scholarship is being disbursed by the university, right? So given by the government and disbursed by the university.
So yeah, your scholarship is AGRTP, right? Australian Government Research Training Program. So it's a little bit different than what I am getting. So can you tell a little bit about that scholarship? Like how you applied, and if people from your country or people from around the globe would like to apply to that scholarship, then how can they start their application?
Okay. Yeah, I think in my case, when I, at least in ANU, when I applied in the application portal, I only tick there the one saying AGRTP or University Research Scholarship. I remember my supervisor at that time said you can feel free to to pick one of those because that's interchangeable anyway. And then when I saw the letter, the confirmation letter, I was surprised to see that I got the AGRTP scholarship. And now that I'm here, I heard that at that time it's really competitive to get that one. In fact, I think in our college before, only two Filipinos, I think, only got the RTP award or scholarship that time. We were for the June 2022 start, right? So only two people, and unfortunately two Filipinos got that in our college here in ANU.
Well, this AZRTP is for both masters and PhD, right?
I'm not sure if they have like a master's, but definitely for PhD, yeah.